Welcome to the Jeremiah Show. My special guests today are recently married Rain Brown Lorton and Josiah Lorton. They live in Washington State on their North Star Ranch. Previously, Rain Brown was one of 7 children featured on Alaskan Bush People, a reality documentary series that followed the Brown family as they lived off the land in Alaska's wilderness, far from modern society. Now, Rain Brown is an author and advocate for mental wellness. She knows what she speaks of. Rain has had struggles with her own health over the years and publicly as a child star on Alaskan Bush People. Part of our shared human experience is keeping our bodies and our minds healthy, right?
Indeed.
The first is celebrated in our culture, and the second, for some reason, has an unhealthy stigma attached.
It does.
And we're going to talk about that today. So there's no shame. And anyone who struggles with mental wellness, you're welcome here. We're going to discuss Rain's story, her personal story. She's going to share it here, maybe parts of it for the first time, and in hopes of helping others, offering others advice, things that work for her, and just sharing the story. Rain's wise beyond her years. To me, as an observer, she's very genuine. She's very brave. And Rain, I really thank you for sharing your story to us today and talking to the listeners.
My pleasure. Thank you for the kind words.
Yes, so thank you for being here. So I just have to say right at the top, you guys recently got married and big, big congratulations.
I did.
So Rain,
A second one to keep this one from getting run off.
who
When I'm
Rain,
working.
is she a runner?
No, I have my ring. I wear
Oh,
a
your ring.
silicone. I wear a silicone one on it, backing it because it'll sometimes I work and
It'll
I get it
slip off.
caught on something and it'll slip off. I don't want it to deglove my finger.
Yeah, do you work a lot with your hands, Josiah? Do
Yeah.
you use tool? My dad was construction and my brother is as well, and they never could wear their ring because they would catch in saws and things like that. It
Yeah.
sounds really scary.
Yeah.
He wears it anyway. He's a daredevil like that.
Yeah.
Not fun losing fingers.
No,
No.
I'm always yelling at him, safety first, respect the
Yes.
danger. Like
Listen to your
my
wife.
brother Bam says. Yeah,
Listen to your
thank
wife.
you,
That's right.
Jeremiah. Yes, thank you. Soak that in, honey.
I remember I said she's wise. So whatever she says, you got to do. Keep her happy and keep your finger and your ring. Look at it that way. You don't, if you lose your ring in a
I
saw
mean, at
accident,
least up to the knuckle is fine.
Babe.
God. Yeah. Oh, you're in trouble after this. Well, you guys, so you're up in Washington. How is it up there it's a holiday season. It's a white Christmas,
Yeah.
It's been white and slushy.
white and slushy. So then muddy too, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those Pacific Northwest. Well, I hope it's nice and snowy for you for Christmas.
Right? I know. I was hoping, and then now the sun came out, and yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want it to be too cold with a bunch of snow.
I'd rather it be colder than cold and just no snow.
Yeah. Well, I envy you a little bit. It's a little too warm here for it. We were talking off air, Josiah and I both don't like the weather too warm. So Rain,
Yeah.
let's, I know how important this topic is to you, and you've dealt with it up close and personal. Why is this? Why do you want to talk about this? What do you hope will come out of sharing your story with the listeners and your fans that have followed your story for so many years? What do you hope to do? What do you hope is the best outcome here?
I just want people to know that they're not alone. You know, like for me, in my experience, when I was going through the lowest of the lows, I felt isolated and alone when I was anything but, you know. Uh, and I think just remembering that like it's okay not to be okay sometimes,
Hmm.
and that everybody struggles, you know what I mean? Like it's not anything new. It might be new for that person experiencing it, but it has been fought before, if that makes any sense. That's what
Why
kind
do
of gives
you,
me solace about it.
yeah. Let's go back to you saying you felt alone, and I think that is the most people feel alone when they're down or when they're depressed or they're sad. They feel alone, like nobody would understand. And you had a big family around you. Um, when did this start? When did you start feeling alone? And what? Bless
Oh,
you. Do you know
sorry.
why?
So unprofessional.
Those allergies. Do you
It's
know
killing me.
why you felt that way? Have you been able to trace that back and come to any conclusions?
I think uh part of it comes from like, you know, obviously like being the youngest in the family because I wouldn't say like different than the rest of my siblings, like treated differently then, but I kind of was, you know, like I was like the little princess of the family. Uh, but like I still felt at a certain point when I was at my worst, I made a list of people and the corresponding person that would take my place in that person's life. And everybody had one. And then I wrote down me, and like there wasn't anybody. And that was like it for me. And
What do you
uh,
mean that they would take the person would take their place? What do you mean by that?
well, like if I were to like do something permanent, you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why like I really want to raise awareness for, you know, I don't even like to say the S word, you know, but I really would like to raise suicide awareness as well because it's very real, and it's when you're in that dark of a place, it can be debilitating and very hard to get out of.
How did you get out of it? How did you cope with it? Where did you go to?
Honestly, I just thought a lot. Uh, I would like distract myself with different things, you know. I would get into hobbies and I paint a lot or used to paint a lot, and
So you
most of the time I would just
distract yourself?
basically
Yeah.
yeah, I was distraction, not aversion. So I was going to therapy too. I've been in therapy since I was 16 or 15. Um, and then on phone therapy since I was like 13. But so I was still seeing my therapist and everything. And then when I was around 16, 17, I got prescribed medication for the first time because talk therapy wasn't enough for me. You know, nothing was helping. I didn't, like you asked, how did I cope? I didn't really cope. Uh, and so it
Wh-
was,
What triggered the, I mean, can you put your finger on it besides feeling alone? Um, you had so many people that loved you around you.
but
Is there
none of them
any,
felt like I did.
yeah. So it was hard to relate or to go to them.
Yeah. Because I would, you know, and I would talk to them about it. And for a long time, I didn't talk to anybody. Like nobody knew what I was going through. Like, I mean, my my mom is my best friend ever. You know, like we treat each other more like best friends than mother and daughter, to be honest. And my dad was the same way. And so, you know, they didn't even know how much I was struggling. Nobody knew until I made an attempt, and then I decided to seek help. And it was actually that very same day that I had a call from our company at the time asking if I wanted to hire a therapist to work with me. And that's what started me into my wellness journey. And I kept pushing through because I was like, maybe tomorrow, that was what I would always say to myself. Maybe tomorrow is going to be the day that everything gets fixed. Maybe tomorrow. And it keeps like pushing you toward the next day. And before you realize it, you've gotten through a rough patch, and then you're
Yeah.
somewhere you can breathe again, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. Do you remember the feelings that you were having, or did they
Oh,
change
yeah.
all the time?
It was
Because
kind of the
as
same,
a 13-year-old girl, that's a hard time anyway, right? In a
Yes,
little
yeah.
girl's
And I
life.
had, and being in the television industry since I was 9, 10 years old, uh, it was easier for me to like get off track. You know what I mean? Because it was
Yeah.
like I was so like put on this like pedestal, like you know what I mean? Like they call this talent and like things like this and that. And like I never liked that. I never liked the spotlight or anything. Um, but when I had my breakdown in 2022, I, you know, it wasn't quite all of my own volition, but it was very necessary to happen. But after that,
So
uh,
so pushing all that down for so long,
yes,
finally, and distracting
yeah,
yourself from
yeah, and it
13
bubbles
to
up, and that's why I wouldn't recommend just keeping it to yourself, tell somebody, anybody. And there are crisis lines out there. And there's some, it just kind of off subject, kind of side note, but not really. It hurts my heart how the mental health community is so unknowledgeable about the brain and how it works and how we think. And I have a variety of diagnoses under my belt, but to me, it's never been quite right. You know what I mean? Like things are ever changing, and that's why I don't live and die by diagnosis. I just sometimes I feel good and sometimes I don't. I recognize, yes, I have this and this and this and this, but at the end of the day, there's nothing I can do to like ridicule it. So then you just have to learn to live with it, and it's kind of like making friends with that monster under your bed. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like it's scary at first.
yeah,
It really is because you don't want anything to do with that part of you. It's so shameful, it's so looked down upon, and you feel so guilty. And I don't understand why it's been made to feel that way. And something you don't even talk about, like, because the less that it's talked about, the more it's going to thrive. And people's outlook on the world is hard right now. Like the world's a hard place to be in. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, I mean, just my life is hard, much less everybody else in the world. We're all struggling at one point or another. And I just think that's one thing I want to keep pushing is that like you don't have to feel alone. Even though you might, you don't have to.
You said that
Hopefully you don't hit that one.
talking, if I remember correctly, you said that talking wasn't helping you in the beginning, the
Mm-mm.
talking therapy. Um, and you started that at 13,
I was like 15 when I started that.
15. So if the talking at that point was didn't work for you, that wasn't what was working. What would you recommend? But it does now, talking about it now does work for you?
In
Did it
combination with
change?
other things, like just talk therapy, I don't find it to be too helpful. And just medication, I don't find it to be too helpful. And I think it's the mixture of either both. But to me, it's even more so about the self-care and how you're treating you is a reflection of how you're going to feel and how you're going to look to everybody else. Like if you think to yourself every morning when you get up, I'm a piece of garbage, I'm ugly, I'm hideous, and my life's gonna be nothing, it's going into this negative spiral before you even open your eyes. Been there. It's not fun. but you just have to kind of catch it and like try to catch it, and stop yourself and be like, wait a second, and there's this analogy that I've been given in therapy many times, and it's that you are on a bus and you're the driver of the bus, and all of your worries and negative emotions are behind the bus, like behind you in the bus. And sometimes they like to come up and steal the wheel from you. So something I say a lot in my head is like, grab the wheel, like grab the wheel of the bus. But I refer it to as a boat in my mind because I grew up on the ocean.
That is helpful. That could be very helpful. I could see that. That's discipline, though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's what you're talking about when they talk about mental wellness or mental health and exercising that. It's it's something that you consciously, it sounds like, especially for you, but for all of us, you have to consciously tell yourself the opposite of what you're thinking. You have to
Oh, all day, every day.
almost like doing reps, of
Yeah,
weights. You've really got to exercise it and exercise your thought, rewire your brain almost, right? And
you do.
when did you learn that part? And how long did it take you to realize, I'm being my own worst enemy. My thoughts are clouding and taking over, and I can battle those back, but it's going to require some work.
I think I was about 17 or 18 when I realized that because my dad passed away when I was 18. Uh, but the year before that, I was struggling pretty well, and then when he passed away, it just took a nosedive. And
You guys, you were very close to your father.
yeah,
Very close.
yeah,
Understatement.
very close to both my parents. I didn't really ever want to hang out with my siblings. I just always wanted to be with mom and dad.
Yeah.
I was the baby on mom's hip and the little toddler distracting her dad, trying to help him work construction, but not actually doing anything. But
Oh,
yeah,
but
that
you
was
have,
when it
yeah,
really took a plummet.
yeah. It's such a tough loss. Um, Josiah, do you help Rain? Are you a do you
Yeah,
hear these stories? Do you guys talk about this stuff? Do you practice
yeah,
this
quite
together?
often. I help her, through it because she still struggles with the negative in her own head.
Hmm.
Bringing up all kinds of just terrible things, and I have to sit her down and reassure her, like that's not in any realm of possibility. You're just letting your head get ahead of you, and you're just creating an issue out of what you think is a possibility, but it's not really even there.
And the worst
Yeah,
part about that too is on the other side of it too, you don't even realize you're doing it.
right.
You think you might just be like piecing things together, and then you confront somebody on something, and they're like, what?" You know what I mean? Like, and
I
that's just
wasn't
like,
thinking that at all. Yeah.
yeah, it's just like one example that I can think of, but like, there's been multiple things, and I'm very forgetful, very, very, very forgetful of everything, and he always helps me find anything that I need all the time. We were actually missing our headphones, and we looked everywhere in our room, could not find them, looked even in the hallways, like all in boxes, like every suitcases everywhere, could not find them. It turns out they were in the backpack the whole time. It was open right in front of our faces. And Josiah goes, "Oh, babe, are these them?" And I was like, "Oh, man." And so now the rooms are like tore up. So we went through it like a tornado.
I'm sorry. I caused a little stress before we started the show, huh? Looking for headphones. Well, Rain, can you tell me? I know this is personal, but what do you tell yourself? Where do you go to? That what do you see in yourself that you don't like that you tell you? What comes up most often? What are
I would
some of
say
the lies that you tell yourself?
I would say my looks is a big one because uh I think for any person in general, but I think especially for women, that is a main problem is you're always trying to keep up to this weird standard that people have when you really look at it and it's not even pretty. and because it's so botched up, and you know what I mean, like, and I don't know, I struggle with that because I feel like maybe, you know, sometimes I'm like, maybe I should get plastic surgery to fix some things that I
No,
don't like, you know what
do
I mean?
not.
Like, you know, but it gets there, you know, it gets to me because I don't think I'm pretty. I don't think I'm worth anything. And my husband's always like, why do you think that? Like, what is wrong with you? You know, even my
Yeah.
therapist has told me before. She's like, you can't think like that. And my mom has just always told me, you're an angel. You're not anything
Yeah.
but, like, you're a beautiful young woman. And my mom's really been helping me a lot through all this too. It's kind of like I've been going through like a lady schooling of like how to be a good wife. She's been like teaching me like how to properly clean the house, like how to properly cross my legs, and you know, stuff
Good
like
mom.
that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you shouldn't think any of those things. Not only are you a beautiful person, sorry, Josiah, but you're a beautiful person in and out. And I know that
Yeah,
sounds like a um, cliche, but it's true. And Josiah,
I
tell her
tell her all the
like
He
you
time.
tell
tells
her
I
all
me
tell
the
her
all
all
time.
the
the
time.
time.
So how do you combat those demons, those false narratives and thoughts? How do you do that, Josiah, for Rain? How are you able
I
to help?
I just reassure on the truth of the matter is, and that's none of those things are even in a realm of comparability. Like I could look back at any other person in my entire lifetime that I've even known, and I've not known even somebody even near as beautiful as Rain inside and out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Exactly that. Like she's a beautiful, beautiful woman. I love her
Yeah.
very deeply,
Very
both
special.
inside and out.
It's it was apparent on the show, but it's also apparent when I've been able to talk to you twice, Rain. Had that honor and the opportunity, and it's a very apparent that you're really like one of those people that don't come along very often with just this beautiful spirit and beautiful energy that sort of shines from you, right? And people around you feel it. So I'm really
Well,
sorry
thank you
that
guys.
you struggle and that you have struggled with those all the thoughts that come through your mind. And um, thank you for really sharing those with us. But I'm really sorry that you struggle. Uh, I have a feeling there are listeners right now, people that love you and that maybe are just getting to know you. I have a feeling there are listeners out there that are relating to what you're going through, and because we all go through that. I think you start the day. You were right. You said something. You start your day, and a lot of time, if you're not in the right headspace, you can spiral very, very quickly.
Yeah.
We all can.
Very easily too.
And it can be the smallest thing from, just seeing a news story to the way somebody looks at you or doesn't look at you, and what's going on, and your mind starts going. It's a real thing, and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about how your best practices, your best advice to help all of us that are dealing with this as well. Let's take a real quick break. We'll come right back. My special guests today on the show are Josiah Lorton and Rain Brown Lorton. You can find Rain. She's got a new Instagram handle at Rain Catherine Brown .L. I'll spell it for you. It's RAINKATY, excuse me,
KTH.
THHRYN Brown .L. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.